Welcome to the lecture on security controls. So, we previously discussed three important security policies that help organizations define how employees should behave, how data should be handled, and how changes should be made. But policies alone aren't enough. They must be enforced and supported by actual controls. And that's where security controls come in. Think of it this way: you can create all the rules or policies that you want, but unless you have means of enforcing those policies, then they are pretty much useless. As the saying goes, locks keep honest people honest. So you certainly need controls to keep systems secure. For example, let's say your organization has a password policy that states employees must use strong passwords of at least 12 characters, including a mix of letters, numbers, and symbols, and that passwords must be changed every 3 months. Now, that's a well written policy, but how do we make sure that it is actually followed through? This is where a security control comes in. So, we may create Active Directory rules or policies which have automatic password expiration, multi factor authentication, those kind of things to actually enforce that policy. So, security controls are basically safeguards which protect assets and information by implementing or enforcing the policies. As we already know, there are several different types of security risks that organizations face in the modern era, and they need to come up with solutions to protect their assets from these ever evolving threats. To make matters more complicated, the types of assets that we need to protect are also varied. They can include data, IT equipment such as laptops, hardware assets, as well as assets on the cloud. In order to protect these assets, we need several different types of security controls that are going to help us enforce policies or minimize the risk. Think of these like different types of checks and balances that we need to put in place to make sure that things don't go south. And we just discussed risk management. So, risk is basically anything that can go wrong. And security controls are the way that we can basically minimize or eliminate those risks. So, security controls are the actual instrument which will be used to minimize or mitigate risks for an organization. Now, there are different types of security controls. A very simple categorization includes three different types of security controls: administrative, technical, and physical. So let's start with administrative controls. Administrative controls, also called as managerial controls, are policies, procedures, and processes which have been defined by the organization to manage and guide employee behavior, define roles and responsibilities, and make sure that the organization is secure. Think of these like security through defining documentation and processes. Their basic aim is to reduce human related risks by defining well documented processes. Examples of managerial or administrative controls could be security awareness training, data classification, or access control policies. So please keep this thing in mind that all of these eventually relate to some sort of documentation or policy or procedure or guideline. The next big category of controls are called technical or logical controls. So these are security mechanisms that are implemented through hardware or software with the aim of protecting systems and data from unauthorized access, misuse, or damage. Examples of technical controls would include firewalls, encryption, patch management. So basically, software plus hardware solutions for IT protection. The third big category of security controls are physical controls. So, in contrast to administrative and technical controls, physical controls are security measures that prevent or deter unauthorized physical access to an organization's facilities, equipment, and resources. Their main aim is to protect the environment where sensitive data, systems, or hardware has been stored. These controls ensure that these assets are safe from human intrusions, natural disasters, or accidents. Examples of physical security controls would be something like security guards, door locks, or CCTV. So please note the underlying theme here is physical infrastructure and physical environment. So these basically physically block you. So locks on doors, CCTV, or doors that can open only from one direction, those kind of things. So physical is the keyword here. So just a quick recap: administrative security controls basically define policies, procedures, and guidelines. Think of it, they're more documentation oriented. Technical controls, which include things like firewalls, encryption, those kind of things. And physical controls, think of like door locks, security guards, security dogs, those kind of things.